Okay, first of all, I want to say if you were somebody who is a descendant of somebody that was subjected to political reprisal, and as a result, you had to take measures to protect yourself, and then attempted to live a life where you could have dignity and actually be addressed on your own merits, then of course I support you. In the United States, there is no corruption of blood unless, or actually, there's no corruption of blood. But if you decide that you're going to engage in crime in accordance with family capacity to operationalize crime and or abuse your own family lineage in order to dispossess somebody else of their rights and then try to extort them into agreeing to cooperate with crime, that's crime. That's on you. I also want to say something that's come to my attention that's very important. I am concerned that we do actually have people in this country that have been engaging in efforts to undermine the United States in order to serve certain interests associated with policies that were identified early on as being problematic and in origin from the former Soviet Union. I'm going to say this. I was not allowed to go to college. And I understand the reason I was not allowed to go to college is because twice within my first academic year, I was exposed to a situation where I was told I had to use sex with somebody who was in a leadership position, up to and including a professor who would have been in charge of my academic program, in order to demonstrate my willingness to engage in future sexual activity with them in manners that I considered and understood already to be completely inappropriate. And when I refused to have sex, in manners that they wanted me to have sex with people that were in a position of authority over me, I was denied access to education. Now, at that time, apparently, we were supposed to be concerned about women's rights in Afghanistan. And the concern about that had to do with not being penalized for one's sexual activity and for not being chastised for having specific kinds of sexuality. But apparently, what was also going on concurrently was a process where a nascent systematology was being developed to exploit expectations that women coming into workforce in certain transitional roles would be willing to identify themselves as available to provide sex as some form of service or compensation in regards to her professional relationship when it came to the workplace. Were there members of the United States diplomatic services, up to and including members of Congress, people in the State Department, or people that were working with the office of the president, that were intentionally redefining alleged intelligence recruitment activities, including in consideration of what was mentioned during a congressional hearing in the summer of 2000, to literally require people to demonstrate loyalty to whoever was assigned to be their supervisor or their boss by engaging in sexual activity? Was this set up strategically to allow for specifically men to identify women that they could recruit as their assets with an expectation that they would be able to coerce them into agreeing to have sex or could otherwise prevent them from having access to the means to provide for themselves up to and including political participation? And did they want to try to blame it on Russia? Did they want to allow for it to be associated with a paradigm wherein, as part of the transition from the former Soviet Union into what was resulting from its decommissioning, that there was a period where a particular kind of sexual activity involving women in the workforce in consideration of their bosses had a different social or cultural more, and so people in the United States wanted to exploit it for their own situation and then blame it on Russia? Is that what's been happening for the last 25 years? And so what's happened is these people that were inculcated into the system 25 years ago are now expecting their retirement, aren't they? And they're expected to actually literally be gratified and compensated with women that will provide them with sex. Is that what we're talking about? So when the President of the United States engaged in a flagrant abuse of sexual power and nobody held him accountable, did he sell this country to Russia? Did William Jefferson Clinton agree to cede the United States to Russian interests, including Russian interests associated with their alleged intelligence activities, by engaging a paradigm wherein clandestine recruitment of women to engage in sex acts in order to be able to be considered eligible for government jobs was implemented? Did it include men? Did it also require men of a certain age to begin demonstrating their loyalty based on sex acts? If this is the case, and if that is actually literally what happened, I contend that William Jefferson Clinton was not an American president, but rather was involved in a conspiracy to cede the United States to Soviet interests. Did the Soviet Union ever actually decommission? Did the Soviet Union engage a paradigm where they were going to recruit Bill Clinton to do what he did as a way to try to alter the cultural fabric and the national character of the United States, to engage in acts of sexual exploitation in order to compel people to undermine the government through demonstrations of loyalty to people involved in organized crime? That's exactly what this sounds like. If you were in a government job, including as a contractor or including as a member of a bar association that served in a government agency, and you required somebody to have sex with you in order to get a job, I contend you are actually engaged in acts of espionage on behalf of the Soviet Union. Did the Soviet Union ever actually decommission? Or did it just lay low until retirement time came along? And the understanding is you would already have enough women of a certain generation that had already been recruited, and the rest of us that did not concede would just be what? How many people actually expected that if they kept their mouths shut when it came time to retire, they were going to get their own Russian version of a retirement bonus and be able to blame it on Russia? If you are a man or a woman, you are absolutely under no circumstances required to engage in sexual activity in order to qualify for a job or provide any compensation, either to anybody who works for you or anybody you work for. And I contend if you do, then you are already on the hook for engaging in a conspiracy to undermine the government and attempt to recruit people to engaging in acts of sexual exploitation in order to recruit them into acts of espionage. This was not about demonstrating loyalty to somebody that had a kinky cultural preference. It was unconstitutional, it was illegal, and it is not covered as an intelligence-related activity.